Good evening. This is my name, Jason Carlasio. I'm here to talk about current events, conservative politics. We'll also get into some mob history. I'm new at this, so bear with me if you feel it's a little different or so. But I'm here tonight to talk about a lot of interesting stuff, some conservative issues and politics that are going on. And I feel that there's really a lot on our plate. Next week, coming up on Monday, as I call it, the Communist Socialist Democratic Convention, which is really run by the far left, Hamas wing of the party. That's what the Democrats have become, just very far left. And I call it the Socialist Communist, if you want to call it that way, or the Socialist Democratic Party, because that's what they want. When you have a candidate, Kamala Harris, that's further to the left than Bernie Sanders, further to the left than many people on the squad, it's pretty scary. Further left than Elizabeth Warren, this is very, very scary. Um, Good news, contrary to what the left wing media says, Donald Trump is up in the polls. The Rasmussen poll, which was the most accurate one last time, forget about the New York Slimes, New York Times, poll, or Quinnipiac, they're very far left. You want polls, the Rasmussen's the one to listen to. And that poll was dead accurate last time. And there's one podcast here I want to refer everybody to called Gold Crown Politics. Gold Crown Politics is the best one here and was dead accurate last time and will be accurate this time. Gold Crown Politics goes by the job approval rating of Kamala Harris. Her job approval rating is barely 45%, might be in some cases under 45%. And that's pretty much what she's going to get for votes. See, I always said with politics, I remember Joe Torre in baseball said, the best teams are going to win 60 games. The worst teams are going to lose 60. Well, I'm sorry. Let me back up about that. I apologize. The best teams are going to lose 60 games. The worst teams are going to win 60 games. It's what you do in the middle with those, the other 42 games. And it's the same principle here. I believe 40% are going to vote for the Democratic candidate. 40%, myself included, everybody else I know will vote for the Republican candidate. It's that other 20%, which a quarter of that 20% of that 20% is voting for the third party candidate. So I think it's 40 Republican, 40 Democrat, 5% the third party candidate. It's that other 15%. That's what it comes down to. And to win, Trump has to get over 50% of that 15% is what it comes down to. But I'm predicting that Trump's going to win by a much, much larger margin than what people expect. People are saying, oh, it's going to be close. I really don't think so. In 2016, all these polls were off. Even in 2020, these polls were off. I mean, the New York Times did a poll in Wisconsin showing that Biden in 2020, oh, he's going to win Wisconsin by 8 points. Guess what? He barely won Wisconsin by what? A half a point, if that. And there's a lot of questions there if he really won that state. Michigan, same thing. Oh, he's going to win by 7, 8 points. It was under a point. A half a point he won, if that, quarter of a point. Same thing with Pennsylvania. Remember Pennsylvania election night, by the way? Up by what, 400,000 votes with 70% in. You'd think Trump would win that state. Nope, they come up with all these votes. What was it? A precinct in Philadelphia, I believe it was 23,000 for Biden, none for Trump. How is that mathematically possible? We know there was corruption there. We know there was, with the early voting, absentee. And I think they're trying to hope for that, the Democrats, by instead of last time Hyde and Biden, they want Hyde and Harris. That's what it is. Hyder lets surrogates go out, but these surrogates aren't going to be president. That's why I say let these surrogates go out and try to do some shady things, the early voting and everything. Hope a good percentage of the people don't vote. See, they want the Republicans to go out on election day. And then they're hoping that people get discouraged. They don't stand in line. Machines mysteriously break down on election day. We know how that works out. And the Democratic Party, excuse me, I apologize. The Democratic Party has the attitude of, like Daley used to say in Chicago, vote early and often. That's the Democrats' way. They can't beat you legitimately, so they cheat and they change the rules. And I'm one to oppose this early voting. I like Trump, what he says, that one-day voting, paper ballots. That's the way it should be. But we have early voting, so we have to deal with it. But And it's funny how they want the debates closer to the early voting. See, they're trying to do everything to rig this. But like Trump says, you got to make it too big to rig. Get your family, get your friends out to vote for Trump. I don't care if you're a blue state. Get the vote, because I think you're going to see some surprises. I think Trump has a good shot at winning New York, New Jersey. I think he has a good shot at Connecticut, contrary to what people says. I like to see Trump come up this way a little bit more. I know he's got to concentrate in the swing states a lot, but he got to work up this way because New Jersey is moving to the right. I like the Democrats' dream of getting Texas. No, Texas is actually moving further to the right. Last time we do, Gold Crown Politics says that Trump's up in Texas by 15 points, 4 to 15 points. Not even close. Remember, Ohio used to be close. It's a red state. It's not even close anymore. New Jersey's starting to trend to the red. New York's starting to trend to the red. New Hampshire's going to be close. Trump has a good shot at winning New Hampshire, Virginia, Maine. He's going to win the second district of Maine. He's got a good shot at the first district. Good shot at Minnesota, where you got Tampon Tim there. You got a good chance of winning Minnesota. And he's also got an excellent chance of winning New Mexico. So you're going to see some surprises here. The key state, Trump's going to win Nevada. He's up in 8 points in Nevada now. He's got to win Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, those states. And also Nevada would help because you want to make this too big to rig. You want to get some extra states in there. He's going to win Nevada. And I do believe Virginia, you're going to be surprised. New Mexico, Minnesota, he's on the verge of flipping those. New Hampshire, although only 4 electoral votes, that's big. Maine, that's another one. So these are big states too. Need to win all these states. It'd be nice to win New York, New Jersey. That will steal it. And the biggest mistake Kamala Harris made is not taking Josh Shapiro. That's because he's Jewish. They want to satisfy that radical left wing of the Democratic Party. That's what they're trying to do. They want to satisfy them, the left of the party, also because he's pro-energy. That's another reason why. So they have to satisfy their environmental wackos, and they have to satisfy the Hamas wing of the party. That's what it comes down to. So that's why they couldn't pick him. If I was Shapiro, I'd be pretty pissed about that they don't like me because I'm Jewish. I thought the Democratic Party was supposed to be open, inclusion, we're open to everybody, but no, they're the real ones that are a threat to democracy. And I have an idea. Joe Biden, I know, is not happy about being forced out, and they're a threat to democracy. Geez, wasn't Biden chosen as the candidate? They forced him out. In which they, as far as I'm concerned, probably got a worse candidate, or they do have a worse candidate, no doubt about it. She's a San Francisco liberal. See, at least you say Joe from Scranton, and he somehow had a connection with the Pennsylvania union workers. There's no connection with it with Kamala. She's far left. She's just another radical San Francisco liberal. And what she did for California as Attorney General, she wants to do for this country. That's very scary. Oh, she's going to fix inflation. Well, what has she done for 3.5 years? She's done nothing for 3.5 years about fixing inflation. Now she has a plan. Why don't you come out now? She's the president now, as far as I'm concerned. She's vice president in name only. She's really the president, because we know Joe Biden's out of it. Which, by the way, for the Biden to get out of it, I heard a good one the other night. Biden to get back at the Democrats, pardon Hunter Biden and pardon Donald Trump. There you go. Pardon Hunter Biden and Donald Trump. The way to get back at the Democrats. That's what he should do. But another thing is, she has all these plans with inflation. By the way, a lot of union workers don't like her. Maybe the union bosses who are making $500,000 with their Cadillacs and BMWs they're driving around. Why don't they make what a union worker makes in the factory? But you don't see that. But the union workers love Trump. The unions love Trump. Even the president of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, with this name, spoke at the Republican National Convention, which I don't agree with him a lot of times, but I'm glad he did speak because, but I think he's one of the few union bosses that's maybe good, that's backing Trump. Forget the NEA, the National Education Association, which we know is far left, full of communists. The teachers union, they're not going to be backing. But a lot of the union workers, they are backing Trump. And that's why Trump has a good chance of winning Michigan, who has a lot of them too. Pennsylvania, those upper Midwest states. But Harris, she's just a California liberal. That's all she is. And that's what Trump has to do. Stay in message, keep exposing her as a liberal. Like Nixon did with McGovern in 72. Reagan did with Mondale in 84. You got to show them as a liberal on the issues, which he's done that. He stayed on the issues. And the stock market's briefly rebound, but unemployment's going up. And I think this is just a temporary thing with the market. I would be concerned about if I'm in the stock market now. I know a lot of people are. I'm a little concerned right now with Harris because she wants to increase regulation, things like that. She wants to hurt union jobs. She doesn't want to take on China, stealing our technology, things like that. Um, she's all for China. She's not for the union worker. She's not for the middle class person. She's just for the coastal elites. That's all they are. And these billionaires, you have the left wing billionaires, but there's also many wealthy people, millionaires, maybe I call them blue collar millionaires, blue collar billionaires. Some of them are the millionaire next door that are conservative, right wing Republican that started their business, a blue collar business, and built it up. It's a lot of these tech billionaires that are far left, and they're the ones that are the problem. In the corporate media, the far left media, that are bringing Harris out as the next coming of Oprah Winfrey, next Barack Obama, which is not the case at all. By the way, has she done any press conference? I'm waiting for her to do any press conferences. I like to see what they're going to say at the Democratic National Convention. What has she accomplished all these 3.5 years? What could they hang their hat on? You tell me. She wants to increase taxes. That's scary. I don't know any politician that's won election on increasing taxes. That's what she wants to do, increase taxes. Once again, punishing the wealthy, punishing the successful people. That's what she wants to do. It's almost like she wants to tax anybody that has a job, and you can't tax your way into prosperity, to quote Ronald Reagan. And that's exactly what you want. Trump wants to cut taxes. Notice how the economy was the best this country ever had. Crime was down, the border was secured. Look how successful we were when Trump was in. And the Keystone Pipeline, this country was energy independent. Iran was going broke and by the way, we had world peace too. You notice Iran was going broke. We weren't buying oil from the Middle East. We weren't buying oil from Russia. Um, we had we were using our own oil here, and we were able to export oil. We have liquid gold here, to quote Donald Trump. We have plenty of oil here to use to create jobs. That Keystone Pipeline, you know how many jobs could be created with that? And even not only that, Harris, she wants to put out the coal miners. She wants to put them out of work too, which is scary. And how about this border crisis too? With nothing's done about that. Like, she has a plan for the border. Well, what have you done the last 3.5 years? You were the border czar. What have you done to protect our country, to protect our border? Absolutely nothing. She's failed at that. The borders are failed economically. Look, the crime that's going on. Soft on crime too. She's a failure at that. What could she hang her hat on? How is she successful? What did she accomplish? Absolutely nothing. She got lucky politically. Became senator of California. Biden happened to pick her as VP. She didn't get one vote when getting the Democratic nomination. So that should tell you something right there. They didn't really want her. Pelosi doesn't really like her. They just have no choice. Democrats really, I don't see what future they have for candidates. I see the Republicans having a very good future. Vance, Ron DeSantis, many others. I see they have an excellent future. What future do they have? And by the way, Trump's at close to 50% with the Hispanic vote. She can't win. There's no way Kamala Harris, if she doesn't get, say, 70% of the Hispanic vote, she can't win. And right now she's at barely, I think, at close to 50% with the Hispanic. Trump's at 50%. She can't win with those numbers. Trump with the black vote is at 20, 25%. Harris can't win with those numbers. If Trump gets those numbers, he wins. And she's getting desperate. I noticed, by the way, she's stealing Trump's ideas too, of no tax on tips. Well, why doesn't she start talking about tax cuts? She seems to be all over the place. She doesn't have an agenda to run on. And the candidate that she picked is as far left as her, and Minnesota's a disaster. What he did for Minnesota, Tim Walz, he wants to do for the country. That's pretty scary. Remember those riots in 2020? Didn't send in the police, didn't send in the National Guard. Of course, Harris wants to defund the police, all that, soft on crime, and which is pretty scary. No, as I said, as a border czar, she's a failure. If she can't control her border, what's she going to be as a president? It's just going to get worse. And how about all these crimes from these illegals against people that lived here? Lincoln Riley, for example, and others, which is pretty scary. And these South American countries, they're letting out criminals, they're emptying their jails. And what Trump did before, to get to the United States, you had to get asylum from Mexico first before you get to the United States. Of course, that's all changed. And Harris went down to the border where she went to, like Trump would say, a place you would want to take your family out to eat. She didn't go down to the border where the border agents are and the difficult job that they have. Why isn't she at the going down there every day? If she's the border czar, she should be down there a couple times a week, but she hasn't. She has a plan for the border. Why don't she see that plan now? What has she done 3.5 years? Plan for inflation. She wants Soviet style economics, where she wants to put price controls, which don't work, which result in rationing. What we saw against COVID, where that was an absolute failure. Rationing does not. Price controls do not work. It's the government printing too much money. It's not greedy corporations. The government's printing too much money. That's what it is. By the way, Donald Trump had a plan to pay off the national debt too, which is a whole nother thing to get into. But you don't see your Ed doing anything on inflation. The answer is to print more money. In the Soviet style, this is what they did in the Soviet Union. You used to go in grocery stores and see nothing on the shelves. That's what you want, is price rationing. And Tim Walz, he arrested a grandmother. This was on Fox News recently, Laura Ingraham show. And Laura Ingraham, Jesse Waters, they're great to watch, about this grandmother that she was put in jail for 60 days because she opened her business during COVID because she tried to make a living. And these blue states just shut down businesses left and right, which was pretty scary. And all that was is an excuse for the government to control our lives. That's all it was. And by the way, the economy was doing great until COVID came. And even when Trump left office, what was inflation? 1.9, under 2%. With Biden, it was as high as 9%. So let's keep that in mind. You notice everything's higher. The price of gas when Trump was president was down $1.49. Now last time it's at what, $3.39 I've seen. So an increase of $2. That's a lot for somebody that goes to work, depends on their vehicle, for taking their family around vacation. How about using their vehicle for work? There's many people out there that use their vehicle to work, and either going to and from work or for their job, delivery services, things of that sort. And they're paying more in gas, which is less money for them, less money in the economy. You notice when you cut taxes, you see growth. Oh, they say cut taxes, it causes deficits. That's not true. Revenues actually increased to the government when Ronald Reagan cut taxes. Same thing when Trump cut taxes. Revenues actually increased to the government. It was getting to the point where the government was going to have a budget surplus before COVID. And also, Trump had a plan to pay down the national debt too. And something that's never talked about are growing national debt. And Harris is the one that caused inflation because she was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate. The past, what is it called? The Inflation Reduction Act, actually the Inflation Increase Act. She was the one that was the tie-breaking vote in the Senate because the vice president has a tie-breaking vote in the Senate, which which caused inflation by this outrageous spending by the federal government. And that's not talking about. Oh, how about the fact that this should be talked about more too? She wants a single-payer healthcare system in this country, which in Canada has been a failure. See so many Canadians coming here. She wants to get rid of private health insurance, which is scary. And this idea of free college. Well, who's going to pay for this free college? And why should people that go to trade school pay for free college so people could take up gender studies? This all bailing out student loans too. What about the people that paid off their student loans and people that paid for college? And why should the people that went to trade school, that are driving an electrician, carpenter, plumber, anything, any of the tradesmen, have to pay off people for their student loan because they took a student loan out to take up gender studies? There you go. I think this is a whole strategy too. People who go to college take up these majors that they're unemployable. Now they're more dependent on government programs. That's all that it's about. Keeping people on the cycle of dependency. That's what it is. And I don't know what Harris really has to run on and what her accomplishments are. I mean, Social Security is in trouble. That should be addressed too. And this out of control spending has hurt seniors, people on Social Security, people on fixed incomes. That's where it's hurt. And This is what should be addressed. I think Trump is doing a great job. He's staying on message. He's mentioning about growth. The last two times he talked recently, he talked about growth, cutting taxes, deregulating the economy. Too many regulations. How about taking on the administrative state and government? That should be talked about. Oh, another thing too, I should keep in mind too. For all you gun owners out there, and me, I'm a member of the NRA. Talk about how Harris wants to repeal, go after the Second Amendment. She wants gun confiscation. She doesn't want to go after the criminals. She wants to go after the law-abiding people who own guns. And how many lives did the Second Amendment save? Why doesn't she talk about that? Because she's a far-left liberal. And by the way, this should also be talked about too. When she was the DA out in San Francisco, she put innocent black men in jail where their cases were overturned and they were freed. There's one gentleman on here, a black man, that she put in jail, and she was saying how his case ended up being overturned, and Harris fought to keep this guy in prison even though he was innocent. So let's talk about the innocent people that she put in jail, and yet the criminals that she let out. So let's talk about that and how she was opposed to the death penalty, very soft on crime. But there were also innocent people that she put in jail, and that should be also talked about too. Oh, how about that? The fact that she's very anti-fracking too. She gives into the environmental wackos. And fracking is safe, it's needed, and the cost of energy will go down. Because not only the price of gas, how about home heating oil has gone up? How about your electric bill? Look how much it's gone up. And everybody's going to go to an electric vehicle. Well, where's this electricity going to come from? You have to charge it somewhere. They want to put all these charging stations, and then, well, when you go home, you have to charge. How much are you going to use in electricity? This electricity has to come from somewhere. And what I like with Trump, he's also in favor of nuclear power, also in favor of coal, which is good. And these solar panels too, this push for solar panels, solar energy is really not good because you're paying for those solar panels. It takes years. You'll never get your money back in a lot of cases. And you notice your electric bills have gone up too. If you were able to frack and were able to dig for energy, your electric bills will go down, your home heating oil, gas will go down for your house and for your car, by the way. And I believe this push for closing down the pipeline is because they all want to go to electric vehicles. And by the way, they want to make our military electric. Well, that's great if we're in a war with China. Our vehicles are electric, they're gas. Who's going to win that battle? And you notice too what's going on around the world. The Middle East, when Trump was president, it was very peaceful. Now, as soon as Biden, look at the disaster in Afghanistan. It's another thing to focus on. Disaster, people were killed. That was a major failure with Harris and Biden with Afghanistan. Leaving there, that was a disaster. You notice too with Iran, when Trump left office, they were broke. Now they're wealthy again. Now they're going to start looking at starting a war against the Middle East. And I noticed that the Jewish vote, Trump's getting more and more of the Jewish vote because the Democrats are very anti-Semitic, 100%. Kamala Harris is anti-Semitic. She's controlled by the Hamas wing of the party. That's what it is. But some good news. I forget the names offhand, but a couple people in Democratic primaries, a couple members of the squad in the Democratic Congress, the far left, communist socialist part wing of the Democratic Party, they got beat in primaries. Trying to think exactly where it was off the top. I'll have the information next time. But they did get beat in some primaries, a couple members of the squad, which is good, which proves that the Democratic Party is divided. There's people that don't like what they did to Biden. They threw him out. They want Biden as the candidate. But there are also members of the Democratic Party, if you want to say the Joe Manchin wing, they do not like the what's going on. They don't like the direction that the country is going in. So you had Reagan Democrats. I think you're going to have Trump Democrats too. A lot of members of the Democratic Party voting for Trump. And also what's key is even in these blue states, you want to pick up congressional seats. I like to see where I'm in Connecticut, Chris Murphy get beat. I don't know, if that'll happen, but I like to see Trump at least have a good showing. Hopefully he could carry Connecticut. I like to see Logan beat my congressman, Joanna Hayes, who is very far left, is in with the squad. As far as I'm concerned, she's part of the squad. She's very, very far left. And by the way, she's all She doesn't say anything about being against defunding the police. Where does she stand on there? And her husband's a police officer. She should be pro law enforcement, again, anti-criminal, but yet she's very soft on crime. So I find that mix there very interesting. But also, I like to see Joanna Gaze get beat. I like to see Logan beat her. He came close to beating her last time. Hopefully he can win this time, get enough votes over the top. See, in 2022, we said this red wave coming. But like Kellyanne Conway said, the Republicans didn't finish their sentence. Yes, they did take the House, and the Senate ended up being remain tied, but they have to finish the job. They have to keep pushing, like Trump's doing. Keep pushing the inflation. Keep showing how good the economy was when Trump was president. That's what you have to push more. They didn't articulate that. They didn't articulate what the Democratic Party really is about, and they need to do that. That they're the party of growth. They're the party for the working people. All the Democrats are is about the elites. That's all. Protecting the elites, the billionaires in Silicon Valley. That's all we're there about. But by the way, I do agree with the billionaire. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, but the 45. It's going to give $45 billion a month to Donald Trump. And by the way, there's an interview with him. I forget the gentleman's name. It'll slip my mind because I got so much hair. He's from South Africa. He started Tesla, and actually, you would think he's in electric cars and all that, but yet he's all for Trump, which is great. I'm glad you've seen somebody like him connected to the tech industry giving $45 a month. And the Koch brothers, I know the Koch, they're big behind the Republicans. They're finally behind Trump. They tend to be libertarians, but the Republicans are the party of the working class. All the Democrats are is the party of the elites. That's all they are. I mean, I don't know who's done well under Biden, unless you're high up in the government, or if you're an elitist, if you're a tech billionaire. I don't know who could say they're doing any better. What is it? Half the population in the United States doesn't have enough money to pay a $300-400 bill if it comes forward, which is pretty scary. I mean, how could somebody say they're doing any better than Biden? Just look at the statistic. Look at the crime. Look at the immigration that's coming in this country, which you have absolutely no control of. And I don't know. I don't know what Kamala Harris could run on, and it was a huge mistake for her to pick who she picked. Picking Tim Walz, that was a huge mistake. And Eli Musk, I'm sorry, that's the billionaire that's funding trust. He's on YouTube. Very good interview with Donald Trump. He did excellent, and he has to just stay on message like he's doing, and he'll win. And contrary to what we say, Harris is not ahead in the polls. It's Trump is ahead in the polls, 4 or 5 points nationally, but he's ahead in all these swing states you look at, from Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the key. He's ahead in all these states, contrary to liberal media said. It's funny. I think that honeymoon phase is finally ending. If you want to say Kamala Harris is coming home from a honeymoon, finally it's ending, which I said it would. Now, she might get a little bit of a bounce next week. If you call it a second honeymoon from the Democratic National Convention, but that's going to wear off quickly. And I don't see what she could run on, what she could say. Again, she has all these ideas. Why didn't she implement these ideas a long time ago? Why didn't she implement these ideas 3.5 years ago? She has a plan for inflation. Put it together 3.5 years ago. Why didn't she just do it now? Because as far as we're concerned, she's the de facto president. She has a plan for immigration. Just put it through. She's the border czar. She was the border czar. Why not put that plan forward? So, and I hope that we see some gains. Here's the key too with Trump: the down ticket. Even in the blue states, you'll see a down ticket, and you'll see. And by the way, I do think people. I'm going to go out on a limb saying Trump's going to win New York State, and he's going to win New Jersey, Virginia, Minnesota, New Mexico, the whole state of Maine, not just the second district in New Hampshire. That's what I think. I'm making that prediction. And I think in Connecticut, it's going to be closer than I realize. I think the Republicans have to pick up some congressional seats in the House. I think they only control by about 3 seats. They need to pick up some seats in the House, in which they will. They'll pick up plenty of seats there, and they need to gain control of the Senate. And they'll have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And thankfully now, thanks to Trump, they have the Supreme Court. And thank God for that ruling about carrying in New York State. And by the way, New York City, just to let people know, is going to start allowing non-residents to apply for permits and to get pistol permits. Thankfully, if you have a pistol permit from one state, it should be recognized in all the other states. I know that Arizona recognizes 33 states. If you get your Arizona permit, 33 states recognize it. Same thing with Florida. And I think Utah might be even more. But and notice how easy to get an Arizona permit. As long as you don't have a felony, you get the permit. And by the way, the bad guys don't get the permits. The honest people do. The law-abiding citizens. Remember the town in Florida where every household was mandated to get a gun. Crime dropped by 89%. So keep that in mind. Remember, for years, Chicago had a ban on handguns, which was overturned by the Supreme Court. Same thing with Washington, D.C., too. And Washington, D.C. was the murder capital of the country. I mean, read the book, John Locke, More Guns, Less Crime. So I'm going to wind it down here, finish up. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I know it's a Friday night. Be able to watch this. I'd like everybody to tune in to my friend Angel Gotti. She has a show on. I think she'll be on tonight, but she'll be on probably over the weekend. She has an excellent show. Also, I want to say Gold Crown Politics. Listen to Gold Crown Politics. And one gentleman I like, he's my neighbor over in, I'm from Connecticut, he's from Rhode Island. MRE, Mob Rats Exposed. I love him. He does a great job. I hope he's listening. Angel Gotti does a great job. And you know what I like? Angel still stays on. All these people that criticize her, she stays on. Same thing with MRE, too. And I'm in between them. I'm from Connecticut. Angel's from New York. And MRE's from Rhode Island. But they're all Republican conservatives. And by the way, I know Sammy the Bull, you know, he's on his shows. I'll get more into this. Right now, I'm kind of into the politics, the political season, and everything what's going on. But he comes up with these stories that are not true. Alan Kaiser, by the way, was the 16-year-old that he killed and was never convicted of that, was never punished for that, did not serve after, what, he got 5 years for 19 murders, like Joey Merlino said. You know, what, 5 years, divide that up, that's like, what, 3, 4, 5 months of murder, depending. You get more for drunk driving on that. So they let him go. I mean, he did all these murders and he got away with it. And you could say, yeah, maybe some of them were part of the life, but Alan Kaiser wasn't part of the life. I hope the Alan Kaiser family is listening. I like to have them on sometime, but they never had any closure. They never had any justice. James Proctor, by the way, has a good show on here. Lee Cole talked about mob history. Watch him all the time. But I see Sammy the Bull on here. He tells stories. I don't know if they're true or they're not true. You know, he came up with this idea that Gene Gotti supposedly was stolen the life, which he has no idea of. And I don't know why he's cracking on him for no reason. And John Carneglia cracking on them for absolutely no reason. And then accusing John Gotti Jr. of being a rat. He was never a rat, never informant. He never put anybody in jail. Tell me who he put in jail. And you know what? If John Gotti Jr. was an informant, he wouldn't have had diesel therapy. They wouldn't have been bringing him around the country, driving around the way he lived in. He was in horrible conditions in jail. I mean, the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay were treated better. And by the way, all this effort that the government put in to getting the mafia or organized crime or whatever, and all the effort they put into getting John Gotti Jr. What about 9/11? They dropped the ball on that. You know, all this effort they put into getting John Gotti Sr., John Gotti Jr. What about 9/11? What about all these terrorist attacks? And by the way, I'm glad the death penalty is back on the table for those the 9/11 conspirators. The conspirators, you want to call them that, the 9/11 people, the masterminds behind it. There's still the death penalty is back on the table. The Biden administration was ready to take it off the table, but they saw it was an election year, backlash against the Democrats, and then they put it back on the table, thankfully. But I want people to stop cracking on John Gotti Jr., leave him alone. The man's out of the life, and he's falsely accused. He is not he was not an informant. He was not a rat. He didn't give any information. Nobody went to jail for what he did. I don't care what the 302 said or not. He didn't put anybody in jail, and that's the bottom line. And so leave him alone. Stop crucifying him. And I do feel bad for also Angel Gotti, too. She goes by, and her son Frankie Albano, her daughter Victoria Albano, been crucified by this Gene Burrell for no reason. Is crucifying them, calling them rats and everything, which is not true. Falsely accusing them of being on drugs. They were never on drugs. That's not true. Victoria Albano, Frankie Albano, never in on any of that. Gene Burrell was a rat. He put people in jail. He put Angela Gotti's nephew in jail, who, by the way, did too much time. It was John Gotti, but he was the nephew, um, the grandson, John Gotti. I want to get the right one. And this was John Gotti Jr.'s nephew, Angela Gotti's nephew, who, by the way, was wrongly sentenced. It was just a pill case. Anybody else would have had 2 years. He ends up getting 7, 8 years. And as far as I'm concerned, he was falsely accused of arson, which is a whole nother story. And when I have time, I'll get into that case. But he was falsely accused, and he was put away because of rats. And like I said, a pill case. Anybody else would have had 2 years. He didn't kill anybody. He got 7, 8 years. People who commit manslaughter don't even get that because it was the Gotti's name. He was put in jail for that time. He didn't deserve that. Thankfully, he's out. He's got a family, and he's on the right path. But he was falsely accused of that. And yeah, I know they say they plead guilty. You plead guilty because all the evidence is against you. And if you go to trial, they throw the book at you. You have no choice to plead guilty because the government has endless resources. Government should be going after the terrorists. What about all these illegal aliens coming here that are coming into this country? Nothing's talked about that. But and so I'll be wrapping up. Oh, by the way, one last thing I will say: Vic Arenas Sr. I know they've been trying to get him out of jail. He should be freed. Let the guy out. The guy has dementia, doesn't know what he's doing. I know the family well. The Vic Arena Jr., all of them, the family. Let Vic Arena Sr. out. Free Vic. I'm tired of him being in jail. He served his time. He should be let out. And you know what? There's people who've done a lot worse and didn't get the time he did. And actually, he never actually committed a murder. He was part of the life, but he was on a racketeering. I know a gun charge was dropped. And like the son said, Andrew, if this case was today, he would be acquitted. It was a case brought on rats, and as far as I'm concerned, he was wrongly convicted in the case. But he served too much time. Let him out. Let him be free. I think he was wrongly convicted on this. But the guy has dementia. Let him go home. Let him be with his family. He's not a threat to society. And hopefully the Arenas family listening. But that's what I want to say. At some point, I'd like to get one of the family members on. I know I've been talking a lot about politics, but I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you for watching. I'll be back on. And this is Jason Carlasio looking to sign off. Please tune into the other shows, MRE, Angela Gotti, James Proctor, Lee Cole, all have excellent shows. I'll be back on less than the next week. Been busy with a few things. Thank you for watching, and good night. And vote for Trump Vance 2024. Pedal to the metal, Trump Vance 2024. Thank you.